Hey everyone, Mike Wilson here. Today we're going to be talking about Breeze. So super excited you guys were able to join us for this event. There's been a lot of conversation about Breeze. If you had an opportunity to go to Inbound this year, it was all about AI. And the big announcement was Breeze AI. So I thought it would be a good idea to just have a conversation about it as we get questions internally. What is Breeze? Does it cost money? Do I need it? And how can we use it? What are some of the use cases? So that's my goal to talk about today. Inside of this session we have together, we're going to be with each other from 11 to about 12 o'clock, depending on how fast it takes us to get through some of this content. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A. You should see that at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A section. That's what I will be looking at towards the end of the call to answer any questions that may come up as we go through this session. So super excited to see everyone. Love to know where you're from. If you have an opportunity to drop in the chat what area you're in. I'm in the North Dallas area, really like close to, like, if you're familiar, 635 area, up in that area, 635 in the tollway. I know that we've talked quite a bit about different topics and different things. Our goal is still to try to get an in-person event in. That's something we've been talking about a lot internally, what that looks like. But in the meantime, while we're figuring all that out, we want to still make sure that we're bringing some content to you so that you can know what's happening in HubSpot. So let's jump into it. So first thing I want to do is go through the product page. If you haven't seen this, you can go to HubSpot.com products and then artificial intelligence, and you'll end up on this Breeze page. And really what Breeze is HubSpot's idea of the smart CRM. It is, how do we bring AI into the CRM itself to help assist? I always tell people, if you're a Marvel fan and you look at like Iron Man, this becomes like your Jarvis, right? AI becomes like that virtual or assistant that can help you and that knows all things, right? So it can think faster, it can process faster, and it can move things quicker. So I look at it more as like putting on a cape and having that assistant to help push you through things. So when we start to think about what does AI do actually in HubSpot, it does things from helping you create content faster, to helping you analyze data, to helping you actually create content. And that's one of the cool things about like Breeze agents that we'll talk about here a little bit later. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I really want to get to some of the things that I think most people will care about is going to be the agents. The idea of agents is that an agent is what it sounds like. It's an agent that helps you get things done. So it's like having that assistant that can create a social post, that can prospect for you, excuse me, that can create content on its own, those types of things. And the goal is, and I'll tell you guys this, a lot of this is in beta. None of this stuff is really, in my opinion, to the point of where it's going to like take over or do anything, at least not today, but it does allow you to scale extremely fast. And I think that's what's going to be really beneficial here. So let's go ahead and jump into HubSpot itself. If you're in your HubSpot account, on my demo account, this is what it looks like. Over to the left side, you're going to see Breeze here, and you're going to see Overview. You might see a couple more options depending on if you opt in some of the betas or not. Some things you have to opt into and request access to, so we won't be able to really test all that out. But I do want to still go over what they are and then talk about Copilot and those things. So if you're on this page, you can obviously go through, listen to the video. Some of you guys may have done this already, but there's really three main areas. You have your Copilot. Copilot is essentially like ChatGPT, right? If you use ChatGPT, it's like bringing it into your own system. So at the top here, you're going to see this little icon, and you're going to see Copilot. This little icon you're going to see throughout the system, that means that there's an AI feature there that you can utilize. So just, burn that image of that icon in your head, and whenever you see it, that means there's something here that can assist you. You're going to see this in social post. If you're opting into the social post AI features, you're going to be able to actually create a social post using AI literally by just typing in a prompt, and it will create for you. So as you're using these things, what you're going to see happen, if we click on try, you're going to see this little window pop up here on the right side, and you can ask it questions. So one of the interesting things, though, is that while it's not perfect, some of the things are still getting worked out. A lot of times it is very helpful in the sense of like researching something or trying to understand information or trying to understand like summary of a contact, for example. So what I'm going to do for a second here is I'm actually going to go up. I'm going to open another window just so I can get my demo contact here. I'm just going to grab this and come back here. And like, so when you're looking at things, you can drop in, like, for example, the contact name, and I'm going to put that in there. And what it's going to do is it's going to go and it's going to find that contact, and it's going to look that contact up. And it's actually going to give me a summary about that contact. So the nice thing about this is something that probably would have took me 30, 40 minutes to kind of dig through all this and find this information. Obviously, did it in seconds. So as you'll see here, it's giving me the company. It's letting me know that they're a supporter in our CRM. So this is actually pulling the life cycle we have set up in the CRM. And it's letting us know when they were created, so how long they've been in our system, obviously their email, company are attached to, who's the owner of that company. And it's letting me know has an open ticket, right? So it's letting me know they have a ticket open, and then it's giving me the engagement. And I can see this little card here to see what some of that engagement is, and just get a really quick look at what this stuff is and how this person's engaging with our organization. So as you can imagine, as somebody, whether you're in customer service, sales, and you're trying to understand the contacts that you own, being able to quickly just get that summary to get caught up on, especially, someone that is a good opportunity. I need to see what they're doing. Are they visiting pages? Are they engaging with the organization? That's going to be a great way to do that. And as you can see here, we even get some actions that help us, like draft an email, for example. And so we can say, like, what is the topic? I'm just going to say hi, right? And I can put that in there, and then the Copilot is going to continue to go through this process and actually write the email for me. So in a matter of seconds, I've been able to figure out, hey, what have they been up to? And I've been able to draft an email to send out to them. So you can go through, and if you like this email and everything looks good, go ahead and copy this email by clicking the little option here, go to that contact and send it. Now, some of the cool things that I know that are coming that they're working on is being able to actually just press a button and this just opens up in the contact itself. So that's going to be really nice once they get there. But these are just some really cool features to be able to, when you start to think about understanding your customer and being able to grab that data that would take so much time before, in just a couple of minutes, I've been able to not only figure out what this contact's been up to in regards to our company, but I've also been able to draft an email to send to them that I can copy, edit to my liking, and go from there. So those are some of the things inside of Copilot, but there are a lot of things that you can do past this. So if you want to go and create a new chat, you can create a new chat and you can see different things. Maybe I want to summarize an article. I can drop in a blog post. Or maybe I want to create something. So maybe I want to, let's say, write a blog post on process. So if I want to create content, I can just start to ask Copilot questions and have it help me do the things that I need to do. And it's going to go and start to help me create that content on the fly. So especially if I just need to get some quick inspiration and things like that to get this. And we're going to talk about a little bit about how it's able to actually pull some of your stuff for your brand and things like that. We'll get to some of that a little bit later here in this call. But as you see, boom, it wrote an entire blog post for me in seconds, and I did it all from the sidebar of my CRM. So that's really nice. And as you see here, it's asking me, hey, do you want to go ahead and put this as a draft in HubSpot? So if I click this, it will actually go. Actually, no, I think we do have one in there. I think we do have one in our HubSpot or demo account. We have a blog. So as you will see, it grabs that content and it literally went plugged into my blog for me. And so now, boom, it's done. I can add an image if I want and send that out. If you're using some of the other tools in here, you'll see things like in the blog where you can generate actual audio from using AI on the content that's in the blog post. So not only can I create the blog content from the site, I can literally plug it into my blog, and then I can literally click generate, and then it's going to actually turn this into an audio clip so that individuals can use our blog as more of a podcast so that it's narrated. And it does a really good job. We actually use this in our system itself. I don't know if the audio will come through here, but it does a really good job. You pick different voices and things like that that are in the system. So really, really cool to see that and see how that's coming together. As you saw with me telling it to go and create that draft blog post, same thing I was talking about with some of the emails. So really good way to start to use this. If you're trying to understand things like reporting and data and things like that, you could also ask those different questions. So you can see all these different types of prompts in here that we can ask, right? So we can craft a LinkedIn article, we can summarize things, we can research things, We can look at reports, right? So let's look at deals over time, and we can plug that in. So it's asking me, hey, what time period compared to what time period? So it wants to know what time period I'm looking for, so I can plug that information in. There's tons of different things here that we can do in here. How to, so ask about using HubSpot. So maybe you want to find an academy course and you want to know how to do something. All those different things are here. So really cool ways to use this. So I definitely recommend, if you're in HubSpot, before you jump over to like a ChatGPT or something, consider trying out Copilot to see if it'll work. The biggest benefit I can say of Copilot over other AI tools is going to be that it actually has insights from your CRM. That's where the big power and the difference is, utilizing the AI tools in HubSpot. So we talked about Copilot. You're going to see, again, this icon. You're going to see it throughout the CRM, whether you're in a social post, you can draft your social post, whether you're in an email, wherever you are. And if you're using the customer support tools, you can actually even use AI to get quick responses for how to respond to a ticket, for example. So it'll actually read the ticket and look at all the other information and then recommend a response. And it's recommending that response based on a number of things. So let's jump into that for a second. So if we go over to our automations, or actually, let me see here. I think it's going to be our customer support agent here. Let me see here. I think I actually already have it open. 1 second. Yeah. So if we launch this here, and we launch our support agent, what this is actually a customer support agent that is utilizing content we have, whether it's our blog, a landing page, or if you have a knowledge base set up, you can do that. And you can actually select what knowledge you want the AI to use, so that when someone asks questions on your chat bot or your website, the AI is using all that knowledge as essentially a database to answer questions. So this is one of the ways that you're hearing a lot of companies that are cutting down the amount of manual tasks that are getting done in their ticketing and support system by quickly answering them utilizing the AI chat. So that's a good way to do some of that stuff. You can also see content that may be available that you're not utilizing inside of the AI chat. So maybe you don't want like your website on there, but you want a knowledge base only. You can definitely select that and control that. We start to think about performance. This is going to actually show you, hey, is this actually helping us solve things, right? Is it actually resolving conversations, right? Like, how is this actually helping us? How many AI to human handoffs do we have? So it's going to let you understand those conversations. So whether you are an organization that sells software or services or something that you're using Service Hub for to manage those cases or issues, even if you're a nonprofit that's utilizing Service Hub to manage programs, right? Somebody needs renter's assistance or something like that. Some of this stuff, your AI can help answer those questions on how to fill out an application or how to get certain things. And it can take some of that workload off of your team. You can also control the channels, right? So these are individual chats that actually have access to this information. And the agent profile, you can edit what that looks like in terms of changing avatars, names, and all that, as well as picking your personality, which is pretty cool. So let me see if we can click on a preview to see what that looks like for a second. So you can see here that we have our chat bot, and we can start to ask questions about, I'm just going to say nonprofit here. I think that's what the content we have inside of this particular demo portal. And if I click on that, it's going to go and do some research, and it's actually going to go and give me a response, but it's also showing me the sources of where it's finding this information as well. So if it's an article or something like that, it's going to actually give them the article itself. So very powerful when it comes to getting your customers the answers they need quickly, and while also improving your capacity. All right, so let's go ahead and close out that. And I'm going to close out this as well. And I'm going to close out that. All right. So some of the other things that are in here when we talk about agents are social media agents. As you will see, some of these things I cannot launch because you have to get into special base for them, but eventually they'll be out to everybody. And the big difference is, while now you can use AI in social today, that is something that's actually already there. The difference of an agent is an agent can create the content for you, almost like scheduling it to write content based on your topics. And so that's what becomes powerful about these agents, is that they essentially work on their So kind of like an automation, but just 20 times smarter. Prospecting is in the same way. So prospecting, if you look at this, and we can actually look at some of the details that they have here, which I think were very interesting and exciting to see, is like some of the use cases. So for example, automating outreach for low value or under resource segments. So maybe for some of your segments that you really don't have the time to reach out to, instead let the AI prospecting tool do the outreach. Let it auto enroll contacts into outbound activities, things like that, based on certain triggers and things that are happening. Re-engage contacts in your workflow. So have it look for people that haven't engaged and then do its own outreach. So it's a way of being able to utilize the AI to essentially become a prospector for you. So as you start to define what that opportunity looks like that you think that this would be useful for, just set it and let it do its thing. Content is the same way of generating content. Maybe I want to generate a blog post or generate something like that. What you will see inside of the system is that in here, you'll have a couple of new things. If you haven't already seen this, you actually have the ability to host your podcast inside of HubSpot directly. So you don't need to put it on the third-party tools in terms of as your host. All your stuff will still go to those third-party tools. You can still forward all your stuff to those tools so that people have access to it. But one of the cool things about the podcasting piece is that not only can you upload your voice like you would any other podcast, but it also has AI generated not just titles, but full on episodes. We actually tested this out recently. So if you haven't already, check out our website, go over to resources and podcast. And if you click on here, this podcast here, which you'll see the little icon AI generated, and you can actually test out the quality of that podcast. So we actually created it with AI, obviously with our prompting and our expertise of what we wanted. And then it helped us write it, and then it actually did the audio for us. So we didn't have to record ourselves or try to find a voice talent to do that. So super, super cool. Some of the things are case studies. If you're in a B2B business or something like that, or even it really don't matter what business you're in, if you're in a business where a case study could be a use case, they're actually building that into the system, and you can use AI to help you create those case studies just off of things like maybe you have a transcript from a call or an interview that you did with someone, and you want to generate a case study based on that. A great way, actually, I think, kind of thing off the top of my head here is that you could actually, if you do like a kickoff call where you're getting feedback and understanding like, hey, was this helpful? Was it useful to you? What value did you see from here? And then take that call transcript and generate a case study using AI, which is pretty cool. So I'm not opted into the beta for the AI piece here yet. So on that, I'm going to actually do that now for our demo portal. But with that, it will actually allow you to utilize that to build out your case study. So if you have not already seen things in the system with Remix, Remix is actually really cool feature, in my opinion, to be able to create content at scale. So if you have Content Hub, you will see these things that I'm talking about right now. And if you click on Remix, what you'll see here is that there are these templates that you can start with, or you can just start from scratch and do it yourself. I'm going to go ahead and start from scratch because some things we don't have set up to our demo portal. But I can select an input source. This can be a video, a web page, and text. It could be audio clip, and it can also be an image. So anything. So let's actually go back here to and pick up our episode here. And I think that I will try to grab the transcript from this here. See if it'll let us copy it. And so if we take that and we come back over to our content remix, and let's just do from text. Let me see if let me put this in here. Okay, so if I put my text, I can upload a doc or just as well. I'm going to add my source. So this becomes my source of content, right? So maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's a brief, whatever it is that you guys have as a source of content. And then I can start to pick things that I want this to actually create. Now, some things it's not going to let me pick because I don't have them, don't have them set up. So we'll go ahead and do a blog. And let's go ahead and do an email. Let's do 2 emails. And then I don't think I have social accounts up here, so I won't do social. But I'm just going to do that for now, but you can do other things as you want. Like you can do images if you want, maybe one image. Once you click over, what's going to happen is it's going to ask you like, hey, what is your objective? And I'm just going to say understanding, right? I'm just going to copy that for all, but you want to put a little more detail in here. How long do you want it to be? Do you want it to generate an image for the blog? I'm going to say yes. Same thing here, same thing here. This is going to use the email templates that are currently available. HubSpot has come out with a schema to allow you to be able to, what they call scaffolding, to be able to build custom ones, but these are the ones that are in the system by default. So we'll leave those the way they are. And then on here, we'll go ahead and put that image. Now, from here, we're literally just going to click generate, and it's going to go and create all of those pieces of content for us. And we're just going to give it a second here and let it do its thing. So one of the things that you'll notice is as it's creating this content, we're getting these plus signs, meaning that we can then create content based off of that content asset, which is pretty powerful in my opinion, right? So now that it's generated the follow-up content, blog posts, emails, and things like that, I can then go and say, oh, you know what? I like the direction this email is going. Let me build 2 more emails, and I can go and add more stuff to this. I can also, if I don't like this, regenerate it so that it goes and tries again. So if we were to click on this, we can then go, we can see the image that it created for a blog. We can read the contacts that we have, and then we can click on edit in app, which if we go to click on edit in app, that is literally going to take it, drop it into our blog post, and then boom, there you go. You have a new blog post created in the system. So now we have those assets created. So I think that's pretty cool. That we can quickly go and do those things and put that out. So this is very nice if you're building out a campaign and you're trying to create content for that campaign. All right, so let's go ahead and close out that remix. Hopefully that all makes sense. And let's jump back over to our Breeze site. So now we've talked about things about content. We talked about remix. We talked about prospecting. We've talked about social. What I want to go into now is I want to talk about enrichment. So let's go and look at that. So you may have heard about Breeze enrichment. Let me come back here. This is going to be the intelligence piece where you can enrich your data. You may have heard about maybe a year and a half ago, potentially, that HubSpot had purchased, I believe it was Clearbit, which is a data enhancement service. When they acquired that organization, they built that into HubSpot, and then that became Breeze Intelligence. So Breeze Intelligence allows you to enrich your data. This is something that has a cost. Everything else that I showed you in the system so far is included in your Content Hub or some of your other tools that have AI capabilities. But enrichment, which they refer to as data enrichment, is something that is a cost, and that cost is based on credits. So if you want to be able to use something like that, so let's talk about first, what is enrichment? Let's say you have a company and you have very limited details on that company. Well, in order for you to get all the details you want, you will need to enrich that particular company record. So let's go in and let's just click into a random company. If I click on intelligence here, what I'm going to see is that in the system, it is telling me that it's giving me some basic information already, right? It's telling me some stuff. Our demo account is not on an enrichment or Breeze Intelligence plan, but it's giving me some basic information, and it's telling me, hey, we have 12 data points on this particular organization. And if you are on the plan, you can click enrich, and it's going to go and update all of that data in your CRM system. So their address, their phone number, how many employees they have, what technologies they use, all of that stuff, the year they were founded, where they headquartered, all that stuff is going to get updated inside of your system pretty much instantly. And it's going to cost you a credit to do it. So that's something to note. But in my opinion, it is a very powerful tool in the sense of making sure you have up-to-date data. As we know in today's world, things change all the time. And so data can quickly get outdated. And that's what this is designed to do, enhance that data. So with that being said, you have some options when you turn on enrichment. So one is going to be to automatically enrich new records. So anytime a new record comes into the system, we want to automatically renew it. As you can imagine, depending on how many contact companies, how many records you have coming into your system, this can quickly eat up your credits, right? Depending on how many credits you purchase. Allow records to be manually enriched. Basically, what this is saying that you're going to allow your team to enrich records as they see fit, right? They have a new lead, they want to learn about the company, they can click enrich, it's going to enrich that company, and they get the information they need. Here, in terms of this continuously enrich, means that it's going to enrich records every time it gets new information. And one thing you want to note is that that actually uses a credit every single time it enriches, right? So, for example, I have ABC company. I have 12 things that I want to that are available to enrich this particular record. I click enrich. Now that company is up to date as of today. A month later, something changes with that company. HubSpot Intelligence picks it up and they say, hey, we have 2 new data enrichments on this company. Well, if you turn on this continuous, it's just going to update the 2 for you automatically. It's just going to change it. It's going to use a credit to do it. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can turn this on, the automations for these on for contacts and for companies in terms of enrichment. The things that I will say is at this time that you want to note is that on contacts, it did not bring in contacts or companies. It is not bringing in contact information. So if you've used tools like Apollo or if you've used tools like Zoom Info, those tools enrich. They have an enrich capability and they have an ability to actually send you emails and send you contact like phone numbers, right? HubSpot does not do that. It does not give currently any contact information. It's going to update your contact, update your company so you have the most up-to-date information, like maybe job title, things like that, if something changed, those types of stuff, but it's not going to give you the contact information. So you have to already have that. So keep that in mind. Here, what we have in the tools is forms. So you can actually turn on form shortening, where essentially what will happen is that when someone goes to a form, HubSpot is going to actually ask for their email address. When they fill out their email address, then the enrichment or the intelligence piece is going to say, hey, do we know any of this information about this company and contacts? If so, we don't need to ask them for these four form fields. Instead, we'll just fill it in on our end so they can just fill out 1 field or 2 fields, whatever that is. So if we already know it or we have access to it through the intelligence data enhancement, then it's going to pull that and not ask the client that particular question. So the field will never actually show up on your form. Instead, it'll get replaced with data from intelligence. So hopefully that's clear. It's a great tool to shorten forms, especially if you have long forms like applications, things like that. Maybe you have longer lead magnets when you want to get more information. You don't have to really worry about doing all that because the system will go and find that information for you, especially if it's company-based information. So some of the reasons why I think this becomes extremely powerful, though, and why you may want to use some of these tools is going to be when you start to think about things about how HubSpot is building all this together, right? So I have clients that are asking, why should we use all this? And why would we do it all in HubSpot? And I want to talk about that and hit on that as like a little bit of bonus content while we're in this call. But before I jump to that, I'm going to hit on this one thing here with AI. If you want AI features, to make sure to come into your settings by clicking on the gear in the top right, come down to AI and make sure that you have these services activated. If you're super admin, I definitely recommend talking amongst your company before you guys turn these things on to make sure that you guys are okay with all the terms of AI and all that good stuff. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you may have. But you want to turn these things on of it using your CRM data, using your customer conversations, using data from your files, and all this stuff, and then users being able to access the Copilot tools. So if you don't see some of this stuff, chances are your AI stuff is turned off. But the benefit of turning all this on is, again, you're going to get an AI that has access to the information in your system. They have plenty of information on different things in terms of like how they use data and all that I definitely recommend reading in their Trust Center and in their terms. All right, so in the AI, you can click on data source and you can see this list of things. So how does this AI know information about you as it's utilizing things. So one is going to be your brand kit. So in your brand kit, you can click on brand voice, and in your brand voice, you can actually set up a brand voice for your AI. So as you'll see here, it's asking me, hey, drop in some sample writing, right? Because originally they actually had you answer all these questions of like, oh, what type of voice do you want? You want to be friendly? Do you want to be helpful? Do you want to be this? But you might not actually be able to get exactly the voice you're looking for. So they've upgraded that, and now they're asking, hey, just drop a piece of content here that sounds like you, like your brand, and then we'll analyze it for you and figure out what the settings should be. So that's really cool. So one, you get to put in your brand voice. So whenever you're utilizing the AI tools throughout the system, you'll have an option that says apply brand voice. What's really cool about the voice, though, is that you can apply different voices for different types of content. So maybe my blog sounds one way, my podcast sounds a different way. My emails sound a whole nother way. So you can do that because maybe you want your emails to be a little bit more professional, but your blogs to be a little bit more down to earth. You have the ability to control that when you set up brand voices. So really cool feature there. All right. So company profile. This is where you're going to come and set up your company information. It's your company name, domain, and your industry. This is so the AI understands what type of company you are. You get to go in and set up your ideal customer. So you can go here and set up your ICPs and define all of those. Sometimes when you're creating content, it's going to ask you, hey, which ICP are you creating this content for? So that it has context. So you have the ability to define all these things, which is extremely cool to be able to do that. Your marketing strategy. You can come in here and you can pick, what are your goals? You want to build awareness, lead generation, engagement, trust, education. What are the top 2 things that you're looking for? And you can select those 2 things in here. And you can say that, and the AI now understands that when it's creating content, how it should be positioning your content. So really nice. Products and services. So that the AI understands what your products and services are, you have the ability to come in here and add your value proposition. What are the pain points that your company solves? As well as adding a product to the actual AI library here for this item. You can give a product name and a description. Now, I have a little bit of qualms about this, but it is what it is. Because I think it would be really nice if this actually pulled from your products, because obviously we have in our objects, we actually have products in HubSpot if you're using Sales Hub. But I think the reason why they have it separate is some people don't have Sales Hub, and you still want to be able to give the AI information about what you sell. The thing to note here is you might not sell a physical product. You might actually give a service, or you might have a cause that you do. Still use products and define what those are so that it understands what you offer to the world. This is where you're going to want to put that. All right. Let's look at this last one in terms of user profile. So here we can actually apply who we are, put our name and our job title so the AI knows who is this person requesting this information so that it can refer to me if it needs to. So if I wanted to do something on my behalf, like in Copilot, it knows who I am that's requesting this information. So hopefully all that makes sense. Now, I'm going to jump over to this area and drop on down to buyer intent. This is a whole nother training we can probably do in itself, just because I think there's a lot of stuff in here that's not necessarily AI related, but I think that's really cool to have. But I wanted to bring this in. I wanted to bring this up in this call because I think it shows why HubSpot is building all these AI tools and features the way that they're building them and why they're asking for the information they're asking for. So some of the things you might not see in here is that there are some new things that you will start to see pop up in your system. If you opt into some of the betas, you will see it already. But that is going to be, one is going to be like lead scoring that has the lead scoring module built into the system for contacts and companies. While HubSpot has had lead scoring for a long time, this is even more powerful the way that it's built. And it has a dedicated home for it that you can use. This also powers the lead scoring throughout contact and company records so that you can actually see these things at a glance when you go into a record. But also audiences. So you can also build audiences now in HubSpot. So when you start to think about audiences, you start thinking about your lead scoring, and you start to think about buyer intent, and you start to think about like your AI tools of your ICPs and your value prop and all these things. What they're trying to do is really intensely understand your business so that these agents that they're talking about over here in Breeze actually can start to do the work for you, right? Some of this work. It can help you do the social posts without your intervention for those social posts. It can help you create the emails and do the outreach. It can help you find who you should be reaching out to and those types of things. So really cool when you start to think about what that looks like. So again, I'm not going to go too much into buyer's intent, but the overall idea of buyer's intent is that you get to define who your audience is, and it's going to find all of the people. Now, the thing that I'm going to mention here is that if you're not B2B, this is not very helpful. So just keep that in mind. HubSpot is primary B2B, so a lot of the features are for that. So it's looking at companies that are potential customers for your business, and then you get to define what the intent is. Meaning, if a person visits this page on my website, that is showing me intent. If they click these types of emails, that is showing me intent. And so then it's going to show you out of all of the companies that are in the target market, how many of those companies you've captured and how many of those companies you've captured are actually showing intent so that you can understand who your opportunity is. And you will actually be able to break this down. If you go into configure, you will see that you can break down your target markets. You can break down your intent criteria. And the tracking code that HubSpot has on your website that I'm hoping most of you already have on your website will track that information. And HubSpot's doing this by understanding IP addresses and things like that that are associated with certain organizations. And that's how it's determining who's visiting your site. So as you go and look into the system, it's going to show you all the companies that visit your site. And you can say, show me everyone that visited my site that's in my target audience, or show me everyone that visited my site that is intent. This lets you know what type of companies you might want to start to reach out to next, or what type of companies you want to maybe invest time into understanding your challenges. So I'll leave it at that. We'll probably do another call, like I said, on understanding that. But that is something where you can start to get this data, is why I think it's important, and why I wanted to talk about this, is when we start to talk about Breeze intelligence and enhancing records, the more we know about the organizations that are in our system and the more field, I would say, their profiles are, the better we can understand who's actually engaging, who's not, who's actually meeting our qualifications and who's not, and who are we creating content for and what are their problems. And so as you start to think about how all these puzzle pieces come together, that is what my belief on why they're building some of these things out. So we'll see that now we have access actually to the content agent that we can go and launch and create landing pages, podcasts, case studies, and blog posts straight from the AI tool. So you can click on launch on here and actually put, hey, what is it that you're trying to do? I want to do a downloadable offer. You can drop any content that you might have. So maybe you have a landing page of content, and then here you can give a description of your landing page and fill out any other customizable details you might want. As well as you guys know, I talked about earlier, the ICPs, where you can select your ICP and generate that blog post right from the screen. AI is going to do it all for you and apply it to your landing pages. So that's a lot. I talked really fast. My goal was to try to get to that in about 30, 35 minutes, which I think we're right around that time, to see if we have any questions from anybody. If you had questions, please make sure to drop them in the chat. I see from my questionnaire where everyone's is. I see there's some people that are close to me. Got some Plano, some Dallas. Let's see here. I got some Arlington. Some of you coming far. That's nice. So let's go here. I'm going to look and see what else we have. Let's see. So a question here that I see is that any thoughts on how to combat messy data, or does this seem to get really messy in efficiency of AI tools? So I think that, one of the things when we start to think about data and AI, and I think why HubSpot is trying to create everything so, I would say, organized in the sense of how everything has its place, is to try to combat any type of messy data we might see as much as it can. One of the things, though, if you have Operations Hub, you will have this data quality area here. So if you go to data management, come down to data quality, it actually has a really nice set of tools. And if you have Operations Hub, if you don't, reach out to us. We can talk about that. But if you do have it, definitely check this area out, because it's going to show you things in data from like properties, from data sync, workflows, and you're going to be able to see like workflows that aren't used and workflows that need attention. You're going to see properties that aren't used. But if you come up here to the top and you click on this drop down, you start to unlock other things in terms of data, where you can start to see, again, your this is like your dashboard of everything. But you can see property insights specifically in more detail, data sync details. You can see data monitoring. You can jump into formatting issues. One of the nice things on the formatting side of things is that if you have Operations Hub, you get these automations that allow you to actually turn on things to automatically capitalize first names in terms of the first letter, same thing with last names. And you can also make all emails lowercase. So no matter how a person's typing it in, you can fix some of that stuff on autopilot, which is nice. Let's see, this is going to be, removing your last name from the first name field. So sometimes you'll see last names and first names. So AI is trying to determine, hey, this seems like it's a last name, not a first name. And it will actually start to remove some of that stuff. And then things like weird spacings in the first name and punctuation and things like that. It's got to fix all that stuff in your emails and your last names and first names. And it's using AI. And a lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to notice that it's only going to really do this stuff if it feels fairly sure that this should be done. If it doesn't feel really sure that it should be done, then you're going to see it pop up in here where you would then be able to go through names, emails, and things like that, even down to locations yourself and fix some of that stuff. So that is, you'll see like here it's saying like, hey, these seem more like the incorrect last names because it has a sample contact. So it's recommended I remove it. I can accept, reject, or I can delete the record altogether if I think the record's no good. Managing duplicates. If you're in the system, this is where your duplicates are going to live, where you can see all those duplicates and see all the companies that are duplicates. The system is looking to say, hey, these seem like the same people. Maybe they're using the same IP address, or maybe they have some similarities about them that it's recognizing, and it's going to give you an opportunity to either accept or reject those things. So these are some of the tools that are happening inside of HubSpot, or some of the things that are in HubSpot to help you start to understand different data. And you can bring this down by like, hey, I want to start with my customers first, and so I can clean them up and make sure their data looks good. And then I'll go through different life cycles. So those are ways to do it. Or I want to look at the newest contacts or the oldest, those types of things. So that's going to help you on the data front. So the better your data, the better the AI, right? So it's going to be able to do things, especially if you're in like contacts and you're using features like, let's go into this one here really quick. So like if you're in contacts, you can actually click on act and drop down, and you can actually click on summary, and it's going to do and generate a sum of that contact. So it's bringing me back to Breeze AI in our demo portal. But you will be able to get a summary of the contact in your AI stuff. And it's basically going to look at everything attached to this and then give you that summary. So that's one way to do things. If you're in things like, let's say like in emails or something like that, you should be able to, and mine may not have it in my demo portal, but I know in some of the email things in some of the different areas, you can also generate email content based on certain things as well. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, even down to, I believe, I'm trying to see where some of these things are, because some of the betas were not in our demo portal, but we're basically in everything in our production portal because we test it before we tell our clients about it. So any other questions? It doesn't look like I see anything else on my end. So one of the things that I'll tell you, if you go and click on at the top here, your company name, drop on down to product updates, that is going to bring you to this page. And if you type in AI space, let me see, it might be AI. Type in AI, that's going to start to bring up some of the things in AI, like AI campaigns, things like that. And if you just click on beta, you'll start to see a lot of things in beta. I'll be honest, their search doesn't work the best, but sometimes it's a hit and miss for me when I use it. But if you click here, you can see all the betas. Things are coming out every single day. New features are coming out. And you can actually look at these things by different sections of the CRM. So if there's something that you really hope is there or want, definitely recommend checking that out as a way to see what's new in the system and what's happening. So if you guys ever need any help or have questions regarding anything with HubSpot, feel free to visit our website at processology.net. Click on the request consultation button, have a conversation with us. We would love to talk to you about your systems and maybe how you can implement AI or anything else in HubSpot. We like to push the limits of the system to become more unified system so that you can cut down on the 15 different software. So that's really a big thing for us. So if you have anything, let us know. Other than that, I'll say goodbye since I don't see any other questions, and to the next event. We do have an event coming up next month. So if you have it, that's a virtual event as well. And we're going to be talking about custom objects and if you need them inside of HubSpot. So it's a really powerful one. So make sure to jump in there because it's going to talk about how to do more than marketing, sales, and service inside of HubSpot. You guys are very welcome.